You're right. In the start, like, I'm gonna be the first. Yeah, you're in, some guy.
Same.
You're crazy in the best of ways. I love you all.
Okay.
I'm not automatically muted. I'm so sorry, everyone.
You don't fix time blindness. You earn shame. Okay, it's time. Welcome everyone to environmental storytelling. As always, with my current courses, the support will be in French. Sorry about that. For everyone who doesn't know me, hello, I'm Roman Rakotovao. I'm a former teacher for video game education in private schools. And this specific lecture was given by me to my narrative designer students. So narrative design in video games is actually a specialization of game design where we are the one that make sure that a story is actually told in the damn game by whatever means we can. And one of our main tools, if not the first and maybe last tool when you are in a small production, is environmental narration, environmental storytelling. So once again, everything I'm telling and we are going to discuss here, my specialty was game design, but it's actually applicable to animation, to set design for cinema. It's if you want to one day make a make-believe park, you can actually do it like this. So use this for whatever you want. It's not just for games, okay? Little heads up, what is environmental storytelling? Do we have examples? How do I put it in my game or in my movie? Who am I talking to when I try to do it in the context of game development? And maybe we can talk about how you would do an animation team too. So you were with me in the introduction to narrative design. But to sum it up, you can use a lot of the tools you've been given by the system and the gameplay to actually tell a story. And one of the most actually resourceful way you can do that is actually to think about everything you do as diegetic elements. We talked last time about Dead Space. We talk about it. Dead Space is a game where every element your characters can see, every element you can see is actually an element that potentially your characters can see in universe. Writing stuff on the wall with blood and having this little scene you see there where you walk in a fully lit little lab where you see a cadaver that is in a pool of blood. Yes, we begin with the gory stuff already. My bet is you can guess what happened from just these screenshots. Does anyone want to try to tell me the story of what happened in here? Inspector Nami says dying next, last words, suicide, bad stuff. That guy's freaking died. Something about his outbreak. Okay, for the record, Dead Space, you're in a ship and you're almost alone. But not alone enough. Evicted from the March Hotel. I can't with you guys. Okay. Better than audiologs? Audiologs can be used in environmental storytelling. It's actually a good way to specialize in, but we'll go by that. No, I'm not chocolate. Oh no, you. Okay, I found more morbid than me. Any other people who wants to try to? For Molly, what is environmental storytelling? You know, it's about narration, so storytelling. You know, it's about your environment. When you do it together, what it is supposed to mean. So first part is, and if you remember for last week, I talked about architecture parlante. We are going to borrow some elements of that right now. What you have to think when you do environmental storytelling is to let your set talk for you. You let the environment tell the story. You let all the elements be kind of a detective game for your players to assume, okay, I see no one around, I'm alone, but this place had an existence before me. What you really have to keep in mind is that no set, no environment, no scene is ever neutral. Even the most neutral of thing, like a portal level, it's actually not neutral. It's actually really creepy. It's actually a lot of things, but it might be clean and white, but it's absolutely not neutral. There is a connotation to the white hospital walls. So a wall, the ground, any prop you use, instinctively you tend to associate it with a date or a period in time. You tend to associate it with a civilization, a culture. When you see a wall, different types of wall, when you see an object, you tend to read its purpose, the possible use, the possible not intended use, but use anyway of the object. Think about all of this as the character design of your scene. So the disposition, the composition of a can give a direction to the reading. Sens de lecture. Help me be bilinguals. Sens de lecture. How do you say that in English? Reading direction? Reading pattern, I would say. And you use every element you have to make this reading easier for your player or your audience. It's just like in theater. You use the lights, you use the props, you use the transparency or the opacity of the elements so that you can direct people to see an element first, see another one, and it guides you to the next one until you've read an entire scene. The little theater you got there, the upper image you got with the kids, there are two ways I could describe this scene. Can someone try what is happening and where we are? Okay, there is a lot of people saying the woods, getting stuck in the forest, children are playing hide and seek in the woods. Okay, so you're seeing a forest. And yes, Carol, you're right, this is a stage for a play. We are all able to see the forest, even if there isn't a single real tree, even if we know this is not a real tree, this is cardboard and painting, those kids aren't really in a forest, but you got the symbol of a tree, and our brain is so very wired in a way that we make shortcuts between symbols and real objects for storytelling that you don't even think when you're watching a play that this is not a real tree. You don't even think when you're playing a game that this is not a real sky or a real road or real gravel on the ground. We kind of have this understanding that the symbol of a tree and a symbol of several trees are enough to make you understand this is supposed to be a forest. This is a hack into the brain of your audience. Freaking use it. You're gonna use this all the time because this is the language of the images, the visual language that we share. All of humanity share more or less the same kind of visual language because there are some common denominators that are really, really hard to unpack. When you are a narrative designer or you are a set designer, you work with all of your teams. When you're in a game, you work with your level designer, your terrain artist, and your prop artists to actually decide, okay, what do I need to tell and how much can I get away with just the environment without making anyone talk, without making any animators do overtime, without any text being added. What can I tell? What can I tell to my player? What can I tell to my audience? This is an element of immersion, but it's not about making it realistic. It's about having an intent in what you are telling. And what is the order you're going to lead your audience to read the stuff. It's giving contexts to maybe your story, maybe a totally independent story. You can look into what Skyrim actually did for a lot of stuff. We are going to talk about that, and you're going to be delighted that entire storylines have been written just using this technique in a lot of open world games. So, welcome in Dark Souls. Even if you never played Dark Souls in your life, what do you think this image is actually telling us?
Boss fight?
Oh yeah, yeah, you're right. Why do you think this is boss fight?
The path is kind of leading to that door, which looks really ominous.
Yeah, how comes do you think this is ominous?
It's dark.
Yes, that's an element. It's dark, like coldest color palette ever. Okay, what else?
And you can't really escape.
I will go first then.
Yeah.
Sorry for being first. I was going to say very pointy architecture or
Yes, the architecture. I actually named it last time. Does someone remember what architecture this is actually?
Is it Gothic?
Yeah, flamboyant Gothic, actually. What's really, really interesting about the wonderful Japanese people is that they really, really don't get the difference between secular and, what kind of architecture is associated with certain building or not in Europe. And bless them, because they can actually give us this. This is supposed to be a castle, and there are some castle in Germany that looks a bit like that. But most of the time, what you're seeing, if you are European, you're like, this is a church. This is not a church. This is a castle, but this is a scary type of church. We agree. Flamboyant Gothic is like the epitome of every technique people could use to make the highest shit ever. Okay, beside that, other points. What can make you think this is a boss fight?
It's very imposing. Like, it's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. How do you know it's huge?
We have the scale of a character right in front of us, and
Yeah.
even if the camera was the person, like, it's really big. Like, we're high. You can see like the pathway is narrow and like all that, and we don't see the top of it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. There is two elements that gives you scale. The camera is pulled off. The camera and the value of your camera of your shot is really important. They actually took the time to pull off so that you can see how tiny your character is in front of the of it. And you're absolutely right about the fact that we can see that we are way the fuck up. And I don't know if you remember, if any of you played a Dark Soul in their lives and remember how much verticality is not subtext in Dark Souls. This isn't subtext. Whether you're high or low, you're really high or low on every level. And you're actually on the highest right now. Okay, I have like 1-2 more elements that kind of tell me, okay, shit is about to go down. Anyone has an idea?
Oh, sorry.
Wait, I'm sorry. I would maybe add that there is a sense that you cannot turn any other way because the bridge goes very straight forward and you can't see another path.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah. You're absolutely right about that. You're absolutely right. Like, it feels like destiny. And not the kind one. Yeah, someone else was telling something.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it feels like it's leading up to this big ominous door. Yeah, it feels like the lines are really leading up there. The lines of the path and the stairs.
Yeah, it's actually, I'm sure you got it. I'm actually looking for a word there. What do you say when you say that what are you saying actually when you say that every lines of the architecture is actually leading to that point?
The directionary lines or something like that, I think it's called, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you use that when you're doing...
Perspective?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, composition. My bad.
Yeah, kind of got it. This is a composition. And what is so peculiar about this precise shot, about its composition?
It's triangular and sharp.
Triangular and sharp is actually a real thing, but there is something else that leads to exactly... It only, strengthen... I don't know how to pronounce that word. I absolutely don't know how to pronounce that word, and I'm sorry in advance.
It's symmetrical?
Yes, exactly. This is symmetrical. Symmetry is the most stable way you can compose a shot. And stable, what does stable means when we are using symmetry and in your composition? What are you actually telling when you're using symmetry? And why do I say it's a stable way to compose your shot? Shinichi talks about balance. Yeah, I think you can do well than that. Calm, strong. Okay. Yes.
Well, I've also heard that if something is too symmetrical, it's odd. Like there's always like little discrepancy. So if something looks so symmetrical, it looks scary or odd. I don't know the right word, but I know that too symmetrical can be bad.
you are right. You are right. Because here is the thing. Why does it seem odd? Why does it seem odd when something is perfectly symmetrical? And Appa, you're right. You're talking about perfection.
I know that it's because nothing is completely symmetrical, like not even in nature. And if you get something perfectly symmetrical, it's just weird.
Yeah, you're right. You don't get it in nature, and Sid is right too. Symmetry is inorganic. It's abnormal because it's not something that comes from anywhere else than human-made structures. Symmetry can't be birthed, like perfect symmetry at least can't be birthed by another thing than artificiality. So yeah, you're right about that. Symmetry is like your vocabulary to say something is artificial, something is man-made, and you have to understand that when we say when it's too symmetrical, when it's too perfect, it's scary. It's because you get this thing that it's always associated with wanting to master nature. Symmetry is really about proving in a huge hubris of the human mind that we actually can supersede nature in a way that is very egoistical, you know, huge hubris there. So it's often a symbol of authority, order, superiority in the less sexy way ever. You know, it's when you're trying to project your mastery of everything, symmetry is like the ideal tool to do that. And there is actually when you are actually analyzing some architecture in history, it's actually something that is really prominent when you got a huge power in place in a region, when you got emperors and kings and dictators. They are often trying to build that kind of mega structure that is ultra symmetrical, just to be able to say, I am able to produce that kind of stability. I am able to have that kind of power over nature and over other people. So symmetry is scary because it really is a projection. Historically, it's a projection of power. Quick note, I never got to that place in Dark Souls, and when I saw this image, my shonen brain kind of kicked up because I saw that and I saw the part of the bridge that was kind of like an arena, and I saw this little guy that is exactly the same size as me, and I got scared, guys, because if you eat shonen like I eat shonen, like back when Bleach was a good thing, you remember that the most human it looks, the most dangerous it is. So when I saw this image, I was like, okay, shit I am about to get fucked. Like, seriously, by this one little guy, and this one little guy is only the guardian. And you're like, hey, and if you know the humor of Dark Souls, if you got, in addition to all what we talked about, if you are literate in the Dark Souls visual humor, you see that bonfire right there? There is a guy just in front of you to get there, and you're like, oh shit. So yeah. Okay, so you see how we kind of talked about a lot of things. We talked about colors, we talked about composition, we talked about scale. Those are all things, and we talk about actually architecture. We called about callbacks to ominous things, ominous imagery, because of course cathedrals are not exactly known nowadays for being a comforting thought, because a lot of us have trauma with religion. Religious trauma is the thing. Yes. Thank you. Canute is actually right about this one. Okay. So this worked for Dark Souls. No. Did any of you ever played Last Day of June? I wouldn't mind if you didn't, because it's a bit niche, but it's a really beautiful game and I recommend it. Oh yeah, it's a bit sad. It's a bit of a sad story, but you kind of get that like in the 5 first minutes. I will pitch you the situation, and I will try to ask you what can you gather from this image. Actually, actually, I will let you do that first. So, can anyone try to tell me what's going on in here? I know some details are really, pixely and blurry, but can you tell me what do you think is happening in here? So, someone tells me about haunted house.
Like a rich old guy's manor.
A rich old gas manor. Okay, how did your brain came up with that?
Well, it's there's a giant portrait, golden frame of him in the middle that
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
quite expensive.
Yeah, that's quite a sign, right? Okay, something else about that or about anything else
It
about
reads
the.
kind of like a shrine, like this is a memorial because he has the stone bust with the gun
Yeah,
right at the center.
yeah. You're actually right about that. What else can you try to do? So someone.
The person who owns this house has no problems with killing stuff
Yeah, exactly. Why do you know that?
because of the skulls. And I think the boy is going to be next.
Yeah, and it's actually a bit funny because you know that when you're in a house where there is taxidermy stuff, you generally you don't show the bones, right? You try to have someone work on the head of those things to make it look alive, The developers chose to show us the bones. Why did they do that? Even if you know that, if you have any friend that are hunters or have hunters in their family that actually kept some of their findings and did taxidermy, you know that most of them don't do, these skull things. Why did you choose? Did the developers chose to keep the bones?
Or unsettling, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. To keep this, most of not neurospicy people, their brains kind of tell them something when they see bones. They like some people do the same with spiders and snakes. When they see bones, their primal reaction is like, I should not stay here because something around here is deadly. It's like a biological response. If you're a bit neurospicy, there is a chance that you actually like going to the weird, freakish museums or the curiosity cabinets where there is skulls of weird little animals. And yeah, I don't know what that tells about us. But generally, weirdly enough, that's not the same people that actually like to kill some stuff. Generally speaking, it's two different groups. Very spicy robot knows it. Okay, someone earlier wrote about colors. Okay, what are the colors?
The colors are going from very warm at the beginning to completely cold at the end, and it sucks out all the life of it.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So I'm gonna actually ask you and maybe the other guys, what can you project about the person we are actually playing right now? What can you project just with this choice of having this division between warm colors and cool colors at the back?
Well, to be honest, especially because the cool colors are centered around the painting, I feel like this person is a very cold or very uptight person, because the warmth is mostly like at the back, and like the deeper it goes to coldness, it's like there's a portrait, and the only very highlighted thing that's like almost look at me is this statue-ish of himself, like he's trying to portray like he's better than he is.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right about that. It might be a bit difficult to see that in that picture, but the player character you have in front of you is not the same as the character that you see on the portraits. But this is your house. You know this is your house because, and I will explain later. But you know for a fact that this is your house. This is the first thing you see when you actually enter this house with this character. What do you think the character you're playing is thinking right now?
I don't know.
Gray is on something like right there. The warmth is going from warmth closer to close further, and it feels like it's going from safe to dangerous. What do you think is associated to safe and what is not? Okay, quick question, maybe to help. What do you think is the relationship between the character you're actually playing and the one you're seeing in the portrait on the bust? Can you repeat, please?
Can I say? Can I? Okay. I think if that's the main entrance, I guess if the cold goes deeper to the house, I guess the atmosphere in the house for the main character doesn't feel that warm and comfortable.
Yeah, you're actually right. The further you go, the less comfortable the character probably is. And there is actually a really cool storytelling going on here, because it's not like the entire house is cold. It's really warm, and I would say kind of comfy, at first.
Yes, it might look comfortable from the interior, but the cold colors just show that it's not comfortable to be there emotionally for the character.
Yeah, there is something I would have had. There is something a bit unsettling about this, and the chat is actually right. They said it several times. You're actually right. This is a grandfather. This is obviously a grandson relationship. Someone, just from this image, you guys deduce like maybe it's a decent one. I would say this is a really interesting one, because this is the first shot you have, and you have a shot later that shows you that there is something really interesting going on. So I'm giving you the context. In Last Day of June, you actually play several characters. You kind of take turns trying to change what is happening in the day, trying to unlock certain events for different people, just so that you can change what happened one day. And this character you are playing right now, full spoilers for a game that has been out for ages. The character you're playing right now, it's one of the last characters you can play, and the whole game he was presented like this insufferable jerk that is trying to hunt a bird in the trees of your village, can't, really control his nasty dog, and is really angry all the time because he can't shoot this damn bird. So you really don't think about him as a sympathetic character, it's very much an antagonist, mechanically even, for most of the game. And at some point you control him too, like every other villager. And this is the first thing that you see of him from his point of view. He's a hunter, he's kind of a jerk, but then you see this, and a bit further in a side corridor, you actually see a picture of the guy you're playing as a little guy, as a child, on the knees of this big scary dude right there. Sat on a chair and really stern, while the character you're playing right there, he's all innocent and smiling and very excited with his fake little rifle with a cork bullet. In one shot, you're actually subverting everything you think you knew about this man. He's a jerk, no question asked. But when you step into his shoes for a day, okay, he has the biggest house in the world village and you won't shout about it, but you can understand that there is a sense of pride in everything that is his legacy, his heritage. And hunting the little rifle you got there at the shrine that is lit just for you to say, hey, this is yours, come pick it up. Good UX. This is actually something that is really tied to something that is really precious for this character. From this hunting practice comes a sense of pride like no other. But it's more the link with his grandpa and the memories associated with it than the hunting itself. The hunting itself, the killing itself, it does not bring a warm feeling in his tummy. There is an idealization of his grandpa, of course. There is an idealization of what, and you could have a whole debate about what it is to really be a man and have a legacy, and toxic masculinity and silence, and being the one that never say a thing, but the only thing he left to his grandson is his love of killing living stuff. Okay, that's the one. That's the one which stick. When you don't talk, this is what sticks. So yeah, there is a really interesting dichotomy, because you certainly you understand this character not as someone cruel or an idiot, but as sometimes that has a deep emotional anchor on the hunting part of his life, because the hunting isn't about killing animals for him, it's about keeping his grandpa proud. Last Day of June is an entirely silent game. There is no text, there is no voiceover, there is nothing. You understand that only with those kind of shots. Okay, you're right, Fishballs. You're right. Visuals gotta speak. Okay, next one. Who played Alice Madness Return? Okay, several people are typing. This game is starting to be quite old now, right? It's been already 15 years. Oh my god, I'm old. Okay, people are actually going crazy. Yes. Is someone capable of telling me what does this image give them as a vibe? Maybe someone who never played ever American McGee's Alice can maybe try to describe me what they see.
It looks dirty and grimy and industrial.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, tell me what elements, like graphic elements, told you
There's a
that
lot
and
of
made your brain think that.
Well, there's a lot of smoke, so there's stuff burning, or maybe factories or something like that. And there's a lot of, it looks like almost like raw concrete looking, and like grimy brick. And the color palette is also like all brown.
Yeah. You're actually right. The brown color palette is really important to give off that feeling of stuff being dead. You know, really desaturated everything. Yeah. Is there anyone who can tell me other stuff they see in this picture? Because you got it right. The smoke is kind of giving you the hint that, okay, industrial era. Got it. Someone talk about pollution. Yes, tell us.
I would also maybe like to add that there is like hints of, I mean, like it's like a city, and I think like it gives, at least to me, the vibe of like early industrial revolution. Also with the architecture that you can see, and in the background, even though the houses are only silhouettes, you can see even more chimneys on all of the houses. So you can also imagine more smoke than right now.
Yeah, you're right. You're actually right, and you recognize that right. That just the shape, the silhouette of the horizon is kind of telling you, okay, I know exactly where and when we are. For those who were there last week, at the end, I kind of told you this is a good thing to have in your mind. Try to cut the timeline of history in half centuries or in big chunks of big eras, if it's before Christ, and try to do it by region of the world. And because of a lot of things, cultural hegemony, colonialism, and a lot of stuff, we are kind of very familiar with a few periods of history of a few countries. Industrial Revolution, especially London Industrial Revolution, is like a very specific picture in our common imagination, the conviction we have of our own history, and it's really easy to call upon that. So yeah, you're right. The chimneys, we were saying the brick walls, the red bricks, the kind of grimy, dirty ground. Yeah, you kind of you guys nailed it about that. We kind of know exactly where we are and when we are, and what are the commentaries, the social commentaries you can get just from that period. Yeah, you're right. It looks empty, despite there being a lot of buildings. It's overcrowded. What is not there? My actual question: what is not there?
There's nothing natural there. There's no plants or anything. It's just quite industrial.
Yeah. It's contrary to the Dark Souls, where you had a big church, a cathedral-looking castle upon a natural forest. Here, it's completely devoid of nature, and it speaks to alienation and stuff like that. It's really in theme with every problem we had with the Industrial Revolution. I would go even further. Do you see the horizon? What can you tell me about the horizon? Oh yeah, it's polluted. It's polluted, all right. Khaled is actually talking about the horizon line being very high. This is actually a good point. Unplugged Spirits is actually telling us the sun is only on the horizon and it's out of reach. Lyra, this is the only place having color. Like, you have to venture to be able to have some colors, begging us to let us get out of the city. Yes, you're right. The day is ending. Yes, Jashi. Glimpses of light, where the city ends, gives the player a goal to reach. And the one for Julia, I actually agree with. It looks like it's a fire more than there is a sun there. And I actually agree with you very much. It's not even there is no idea of the sun beyond the pollution. It's actually, it feels like even the sky is on fire. Can you realize the genius of this kind of imagery? Everything is dead, everything is dull, everything is dark, the sun is setting, and the only thing that seems a little bit of the only contrast you have is an horizon that gives you the impression that this is the darkest, endless world being swallowed up by pollution, and on the horizon, even the sky is set on fire. This is the beginning of the game. This is the second game of a series. Previous episode was dark in its own right, but most of the time you were in the head of Alice, and there, everything there. Even if there was a lot of horror, the whimsy was there. This is one of the first sequences in the second game you get, and you're Alice from Alice in Wonderland, and you're an adult. You've been with Alice like, what, 5, 10 minutes tops? What is the first thing you're gonna think when you're put there and the horizon line is like crushing you? End of innocence, hopelessness, depression. Oh, you're right. Bleak. End of the world. You're absolutely right. It feels like the end of the world. Things won't get better. Suffocating, you're right. Give me all the vocabulary. Yes, Pip Boy. You're right. The thing you think when you have your controller in your hand and you're actually sitting there with Alice is, I want to leave. I'm choking out. I want to leave. I don't want to be there. And this is a really, really important thing, because when you achieved that kind of storytelling just by asking your player to go on the roof and see how hopeless the world is just because you use the color word, there is no one in here. There is no one. You just have to, fetch something for someone. This scene is just to establish this bleakness, this bitterness, this hopelessness, and make you feel in your guts, I don't want to be here. But your name is Alice. You don't have to be here. You could be there. And that's the exact effect you want when you're doing environmental storytelling. You want to use contrast. Okay, Zero, you're launching the ball for us. The world is out there. Escapism. Okay, guys, where are we? What's happening? What are we feeling? And what composition and visual language colors are we using to convey that? Anyone some ideas? Oh, nature is back. Yes, you're right, Fish Boy. Nature, light, bright colors. Wonderland! We're here. Noir, I would actually be interested in you expanding upon that. The escape scene looks dark, though. It's better than it was, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and I would be really interested in knowing what makes you think that. Clean, clear water, you're right, Zero. It looks unreal, in a good way. It feels serene. Organic shapes, you're right there. Organic shapes too. Mysterious place in nature, far off from the first image I just showed you. Yes, you're right. Vibrancy, curiosity. How do you get curiosity from there? Because it is there, but what makes you think, okay, I want to be curious about this stuff? Butterflies, statue gives something magical, out of this world. The domino game, really important. Ren is actually talking about heavy shadows, no people or animal except butterflies, make it look lonely. An overgrown statue, which is actually abandoned. Yes, you're right. So it doesn't look like it's been tended to. You are right. Kadut is actually telling us too good to be true. Yes. Twisted. How do you get twisted? Because you are right. So, curiosity because a big statue that you don't know the meaning behind or it was made. It's the opposite palette to the other scene. Yeah, not too welcoming because you can get lost there. It gives you a weird feeling. Okay, I want to analyze that. Can someone take the map and try to explain me what does feel weird in here? How do you get this weird sensation? Because there is actually really, really concrete elements to make you feel weird. The statue merging with the waterfall. The vibrancy could almost be sickly. The pose of the statue is off.
I have two thoughts.
Yeah, tell us.
One is that there's some like very dark shadows that might be obscuring things.
Mm-hmm.
And the other being that, in contrast to the other scene, is that we can't see the sky at all, pretty much. There's like no horizon.
Yeah. How does the fact that you can't see the horizon could make you feel, especially with this angle of camera?
Maybe a bit trapped.
A bit trapped. You're kind of right, but I'm looking for another world.
Small in comparison to everything else.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You feel small. And less than trapped, I actually think that you don't feel claustrophobic, but definitely you're out of your depth, quite literally. It could feel claustrophobic, but not yet, you're almost there. Yeah, this statue and the dominoes and the freaking size of the butterflies are especially there to make you feel small. Like, okay, you're not, trapped in the endless suffering that is modern London anymore, but you're certainly not in a place you control either, So this is like 5 minutes after the last picture I showed you. It's like just you completely did your boring task, and now you are in Wonderland, and it does feel much nicer, but it also feels a bit unsettling. Because not everything, is controlled there. The fact that this is actually Alice's head, it's really a clear indicator that you're not in anywhere, any place that is real. It really follows the Maraviosa rules. Rules of Maravioso. Maravioso is a style of writing and poetry that is really popular in Latin America, Latin American literature, where the world adapts to the characters' emotional states. So yeah, the rule of thirds is really well used, just so that you got a direct alignment between the weeping Alice and the Alice standing as the player, and it's all on the focal points too. So yeah, it's really efficient. Composition will be really important because it gives you how you're supposed to read this image. Looks very mixed with deranged, disturbed, and beautiful. Twist part of false hope, could be abandoned as overgrown plants, but no one resides around or stick around. Yeah, you just psychoanalyzed our dear Alice. Different scale of familiar objects will give a sense of distortion. Butterflies and Alice are really very much connected because there is a lot of symbology around butterflies. Because there is butterflies are really interesting because they are both tied to beauty and innocence and to death. So it's a really powerful symbol to use in your imagery if you ever need to do that. Unplugged Spirits is saying not being able to see the horizon means you could easily lose track of time. You're absolutely right, and we are talking about Alice daydreaming. Blind Stranger, is it me or the vines and overgrowth looks like something on her shoulders? Yeah, you're right. When we say it's not a statue that is being tended to, it's like left, to its own evolution. The term abandoned and being overgrown by something is really, really very much a huge theme that is relevant in this game, and you can actually use the principle of Maravioso as a genre to express the interiority of your characters through the entire scenes. Yeah, lose track of the location because the sun is invisible and you can't use it for orientation. Getting lost. Okay, next one. Still in Alice Madness Return, a few chapters in. Where are we? Yeah, Maravioso. You can look up Maravioso. It's a really interesting literature movement. In France, we have Les Nymphéas, but I think this is the only example I can think of on the top of my head that is French and not from Latino culture. Encanto is Maravioso. The Disney movie Encanto, it's Maravioso. So Alice is underwater. Can you guess? And I would say, why? It's interesting. Why do you think we're underwater? How do you know we're underwater?
Because of the sunken ships, and there's fish that you can see with bubbles.
Yeah.
Yeah, bit of rot on the boats, showing that they are sunken. And
Yeah, you're right.
The colors are also affected. Like that underwater it looks more bluish.
I didn't catch every of that, but I'm gonna assume that you talk about the ground and the light.
Yeah, the light and the colors, they're affected by the water around.
Yeah, the sky is lit like there was active subsurface scattering happening right there. So yeah, what Jackie Hunters calls the typical blue color. This is really funny because when you enter the space with Alice, you never went into water. You just walked until you were there. And yes, your hair is starting to act a bit, a bit less affected by gravity all of a sudden. But really, you never plunged into water. Just as at some point, you were in the lights of an underwater environment. But in universe, you really don't know when it started to be water or not. And you get that just because of the lights. I'm sure some of you in the chat can draw me the way your eye is drawn to each element and in what order you are trying to read this kind of composition. Because this is a really complex composition actually, but maybe you can try to draw where does your eye end up and where does your gaze travel. So Fishboy is saying Alice, bright blue, down the ship. The sails of a ship. First thing you see are the silhouettes of the ship, the main character, and then the sky background. First I see Alice, then I see the light, blue at the top left. Then the pig snout, and yes, you're right, this is a pig snout. At the far right, then the center thingy. What is the center thingy? And you're right, Fish. How are you? You're right. Yes. This is exactly the kind of thing that you want to do. Why does it work? Why does it work? 0, 2, 0 got it true. Yeah, rules of third are really powerful, right? Always think about your camera, guys. Your camera is your best friend. Yeah, so this is a statue with a central plaza you're staying in the middle. And Ari is saying, your eye is guided by the lighting and the depth of the image. And specifically, the lighting, the contrast, and very simple. We talked about the blue. Now, where are you looking right now? Very spicy shot, placing the projector, Okay, let's go quickly. This is about light temperature. The first thing you see are the few warm stuff against the cold environment. The cold blue is contrasted with this really yellow light. Okay, so the snout is a collectible in the game. It's just a character you're supposed to talk with. So it's kind of a reflex. You want to get to the snout because it's a familiar thing. You have to walk to the person right under there. You got information about everything and you know that you're supposed to go like right on the plaza, in the direction of the plaza. And right there we're saying a word without making dots or scent trails. Sorry, I got something for The Witcher. Without scent trails, luminous scent trails, without arrows, without dots on the path, you actually have given objectives to your player and you told them immediately where they are supposed to walk to. Just because you thought about your composition, your contrast, your lights, and using your storytelling. Yeah, there is an intent in the directionality you want. And when you are talking about games, it's really important because you want the player to know how he's supposed to navigate this place without, giving him actual rails to follow. This is an old game, so you get spoiled. Yes, yellow spray paint. I'm actually talking about that. Okay, guys, can anyone describe me what is this image? One True Julia says, hopeful. Anyone? World! Fantasy, bright and colorful. First sign of the sun. Yeah. Why do you know, Julia, True Julia, why do you know the sun is there? Yeah, Unplug, you're right. Sun rays. And yes, Prepare Sign, this is the first time you see Alice right dead in the center. Still got it, guys. It feels like a mix of both worlds, like what thing could be like. Feels kind of the end of a journey, like she learned a lot and is finally going to a better place. A better London. Finally touching grass. Sunny, upward direction. First impression is hopeful. Second impression is weird, huge. Die. That looks dirty. Nature and civilization. About to go somewhere in a better situation from where she was. Post-apocalyptic. No humans, only nature. First time we see a clearer blue sky too. Yes, you're right. Sun rising. Showing something that is out of reach. From a dark place to yes. Fanciful, giant mushroom, water tower that looks kind of like a teapot. They fixed London. Environment is very whimsical with bright colors. Sky takes the attention because of the different values. You're right. Everything is dulled and toned down just to make the sky fucking bright. Make it shine. You're right, a very, very optimistic shot. Can someone try to tell me what is happening according to them? Bonus point if you never finished this game. Anyone in the voice chat? Someone wants to ring in? No one? Okay. So you're right. This is the end of the game. Spoilers for a 15-year-old game. This is just after the finale. Like, this is literally the final image of the game. And it's after really dark stuff, let's say dark stuff, that goes into a lot of really funny thing like child abuse and rightful female rage. Let's say it like this. And this is a moment where we're already back in London. We are already back in reality. You're right, we are in London. But Alice no longer sees London the way it is. Alice just did something that kind of confirmed the feeling we had when we began the game, saying that yeah, if that's reality, I don't want reality, thank you. Yeah, Ren. She decided that she no longer had to repress her inner world. And even if, she is completely delusional, she actually accepts the fact that yes, she is seeing an hallucination, but her hallucination are way better than reality and help her cope in a healthier way that what was tried on her for years. Let's say that. And those who played the game will understand. Haven't played the game, but no Alice in Wonderland, the story, seeing this make me feel like her reality and her refuge merged together, losing her mind. You're absolutely right about that, but it's actually a huge, this shot alone, in a more actual political way, actual spiritual way, or in a very concrete way if you know or people who are subject to, or if you are yourself subject to delusions, if you live with symptoms of schizophrenia, if you see stuff that isn't shared with the rest of the people's reality, it can be dangerous, it can be very detrimental, but it's only detrimental if you nourish that part that makes them scary. There is a lot of culture in the world where delusions and hallucinations, because they are not treated as inherently demonic or harmful, they actually help people live with other people. Some culture ties it to spirituality, ties it to dialogue with the dead, ties it to communication with another world, another dimension, another state of conscious. And people that are actually having hallucination don't have hallucinations that are actually harmful or making them paranoid, but are rather giving them advice, pieces of advice. It's another way to think about mental health. First time I ever saw the end of the game, I didn't quite went in depth in that interpretation, about how to handle mental health. But knowing the context of the game, it's really telling you an entire story about accepting your reality or not.
Something that I found interesting about this last one is that the environmental design almost becomes an unreliable narrator, in that it's no longer telling us what reality is exactly like, and instead is informing us kind of how Alice is internally seeing the world. And in that way, kind of like the environment is more of a support towards the story than it is about just defining the clear, rigid structure of wherever we are.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And this is the number one lesson you're supposed to get. You can use your environment however you like. You don't have to be respectful of any kind of reality. Maravilloso as a style, and definitely, even if it's a bit anachronical, Alice in Wonderland is completely a precursor to Maravilloso, especially this genre of visual storytelling and literature that is actively bending the reality to the psychology of the characters. You can go to the simulation end of the thing, but most of the time, you're always a bit in between, you know, when you're telling a story and you have an actual space to play with. I would say more, even if you're not textbook Maravilloso, you really can tell a story with just your environment. Treat your environment either as a reflection of your characters or are their own characters in itself. In Dark Souls, the vertical construction of every level and every place is really treated as its own character, and the environment can beat you down. Yes, every player of Dark Souls 2, we went to that pit and we feel it in our bones. And the environment can wear you down or can elevate you, and you have to use every part of it, not as this is just a place that exists, but as a tool both for immersion and for storytelling. Max, I agree with you. The chara designs for this version of Alice in Wonderland was really epic. There was a real storytelling there. The environments were a bit fuzzier. It had the disadvantage of being late to the party when Alice Madness Returns actually went out, you know. Yeah, Kadut, you're right. You're picking a lane when you're actually applying your lights, actually cheating with the angles, cheating to camera. You're always picking a side. Okay, so I invite you to look at this TED Talk, which is called "You Are Fluent in This Language and You Don't Even Know About It." This is what I was talking about earlier. The fact that in the image of the TED Talk that you see right now, I think you can, all of us just thought cat before we thought book and ink. Pattern recognition, you're right. When you're doing environmental scheduling, this is a tool you're using. And you're using it especially in video games, you're using it in the context of video games being total arts. And I call total arts that build upon other arts to feel complete. Theater is total art. You need sound, you need movement, you need object design, you need set dressing, you need words, you need, I say words not to say text, you know, but yeah, you use everything, every kind of art possible, and you bring them together to make it a cohesive whole. You do that in theater, and you do that in video games. And video games have this thing that some and most of the theater performers have too, that is interactions too. Movies and films, I don't call total art yet. It's very close, but I don't call total art because I'm missing interaction. I'm missing the grammar of the interaction. But it's pretty damn close. You use other artistic languages to set up the bigger meaning that you want to make with your theater scene or with your actual game level. So you're gonna use your tools here are the composition, the sound design, and music, because yeah, your environment is rarely mute, and silence is actually part of the vocabulary you can use. Not every silence are the same. Movement, so dancing, acting, animation, this is a language you are allowed to use. And objects and their connotation, like we said, you all recognized the Industrial Revolution chimneys, because they have a connotation. Okay, if you're good on that, this is all the things that you are maybe to use when you do storytelling with your sets. So we're gonna talk about composition, okay? So there are several ways to formally try to get your stuff. Rule of third, again, is a really reliable way to do stuff because it's quite simple to actually teach, and this is a familiar thing. The eye likes to cut everything in thirds. You also have a triangular composition. You have a whole lot, and there are other type of composition that I don't even name there, but let's be clear. Rule of thirds, you're actually trying to align stuff either on the lines or either at the cross points of said lines. In here you can see we are in The Last of Us 2. In here you can see that we made the player take one entire third, a column of the screen. The head is actually very close to the intersection between the upper line and the most left, the line on the left, her shoulders at this point. And the thing that you're supposed to look at is on the upper part of the image, very close to the upper left cross points of the thirds. And you kind of always have this thing. You can use the points, you can use the entire columns, you can use the lines to guide the way you look at stuff. You got symmetry, and we talked about that. Exact symmetry is unnatural, and if you use symmetry to divide an upper part and a downward part, or a left part and a right part, it can help you make the image more readable. This image is really, really, really useful because it kind of has everything. You can't make it clearer, You got the triangular composition too. The triangle doesn't have to end up in the center of the the upper part of your triangle doesn't have to be that center. It doesn't have to be an isosceles triangle. Your triangle can have the shape you want. But it's generally a really good way to build your composition too. If you look at a lot of League of Legends splash arts, most of them are actually in a triangular composition, a really strong triangular composition. You can try it on any splash art, I assure you. You got the reading direction. Most of the time, your eye goes at the center, and then you follow your natural reading direction. In Europe and in the Western world, we read from right to left. So very literally, we kind of tend to try to go back to the top left and our eye try to go down to the bottom right of an image. And let's say we kind of go back to the middle if our eye isn't guided by another line of directions. In here, you got lines of direction being drawn with the environment, like the horizon line, the trees, the path, the perspective on the buildings. Everything tells you where you're supposed to go. And for video games, it's really important. You want your player to know exactly where he's supposed to go, what is their objective, where they are supposed to walk. And yes, you're right, Ren. Most of the time, you don't have full control of the camera when you're dealing with a player. Even if your camera is heavily on rails, you kind of have to take into account every improvisation your player is gonna make. So yeah, most of the time you have to not only to think about the composition from one place, but the composition in a continuum. And that's the hardest part about level design, actually. You kind of can't forgive the fact that we kind of paint some yellow arrows on the ground, because sometimes it's a bit overwhelming and you don't have the time to actually block the camera for every use case, even if that's what we should do. But come on, Ubisoft has a lot of money, but none of it is for the players. Was this a burn? Okay, no, I'm sorry. I love you, Ubisoft. I want to work. You use every opportunity you got to guide the player in movement. You got the golden number 2. Golden number is a way to try to pinpoint another type of composition that is not quite the rule of third, but still feels balanced to the brain. You can look it up, actually. Golden number. And you can support your composition, the construction of your scene, using the light, the reflections, and the temperature of your image. Oh yeah, totally, Sil. This is the main objective when you're trying to... Golden ratio, yes, yes, you're right. Golden ratio. Try to control what is visible, what is clear, what is worthy of attention. You always try to use lights and temperature. Okay, with this exact same environment, you can say a very different story. Here is a setup. Same scene, just a detail changing. Imagine you are in a canyon, you're the little triangle, and behind you there is 3 little goons from Mad Max Fury Road. Imagine. Can someone tell me the difference between the right and the left situation? This is exactly the same thing. It's deserts, cliffs, 3 opponents, and you.
One of the composition gives more space to think of a different plan other than just brute forcing it or running away.
Yeah, you're right. And you know that because, okay, you can see the story immediately, but why? Factually, what is the only parameter I changed?
The space?
Yeah, exactly. I changed the proportion in the space I'm giving, and I didn't change anything. I didn't ask anyone to produce new environment. I just ask people to make a choice with the space we are using. And Blink, you're right. The one is literally off fuck, and the second is literally I can juke them. And that's the power you got when you actually have the control of space. In a movie or in an animated movie or in the theater, it works too. But in a game, oh my god, you're in for a ride when you have control of that. Yes, one feels more cramped and dangerous, claustrophobic even. Ren is telling us, depending on how the character is placed on the screen by default, influence how the player will see the environment. Like the Dark Souls, for example, at the beginning, the dual center makes everything look at automatically seem more imposing. And you're right. There, in the shot you have right there, I didn't even include it if my camera was looking up or down. I'm just showing you the disposition of the level design. We call this open whose gameplay. Okay, so that's the kind of control you have when you're doing an environment. And this is a huge power. Okay, we are still talking about this idea of when I am in an interactive media, especially video games, you don't have the control of the camera, or you don't have the whole control of the camera. You can have partial control, you can have a camera on rails, but the speed at where it goes, if you're not in a rail shooter, it's the player who is the cameraman. So you have to give them an environment where automatically they know what they should be doing, and you can help them with where does the camera is looking at. Is it over the shoulder? Is it first person? Is it way back, like a few steps back? Is it dead center on the character? You can have make a lot of different, pre-made choices for the player to let him just move around. But even if you don't have control on that at all, you actually can guide his sight, guide where they are going to look in a very deliberate way, because you can chop it in different parts where you make it so that the player has to notice something first. So for example, imagine we are in a 2-player game and Blink is telling us mandatory stealth mission. Yes, let's go with that. This is actually exactly what I wanted, so maybe I know how to do my job. But imagine you're in a 2-player situation. Can someone tell me what is the first player seeing and what is the second player seeing? I call the first player the one who is on the bottom, the green triangle looking on and a bit to the left. Okay, Unplugs is saying first one sees 2 enemy while the second sees all 3. First player only see 1 what's facing the entrance, and the second right guy, the other sees more of the environment. You're right. First player is seeing the enemy, second is seeing like nothing if the big black rectangles are walls. Yeah. My body isn't seeing the third guy and is going to open fire and turn it into an outline enemy scene. Yes, you're right. So yeah, you can already imagine a story there. You can already imagine what's going to happen and in what order it happens, because you chop it in little moments to moments storytelling, because you actually control space. You don't control the camera, or you control very little of the camera, but if you got space, you actually can tell the story. The story is player 1 is gonna get noticed and we're gonna have to start it all over again. Okay, now what, guys? Tell me what the characters can see, probably. How it is going? Is it stressful?
They can sort of see everything. This feels like a military kind of getting control over the room type of situation.
Oh yeah, you're actually right about that. What is especially useful from a military background that the players could be doing right now, and maybe one of them is doing?
They're both like in control of like the I don't want to say exits, where the in the middle it goes off to the left and right, so they're both watching those exits or entrances.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is especially when you're controlling, the kind of angles your players can go through. You have to be ready to show them a few things before you give them access to the right angle to actually see the exit. And yeah, the first one obviously can't see anything because it is supposed to be focused on, going against the three little characters and maybe the point of interest there is in the middle of the room, rather than the second one, the one who is looking up. He's already on a corner, he's way outside where he's supposed to be, but from this point of view, you can, with the space, actually tell him, oh, right, you know what? From your point of view, the only interesting thing you're supposed to see after the bad guys have been put down is that you can tell to your partners, oh, there is actually an exit right there. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Player 1 bottom can see the enemy backs and crates. Player 2 can see the space behind the crates, the road ahead of them, as well as the enemies. Yeah. So when you're doing level design, you actually can, push your players into situations that are going to make a good story anyway. This is the control of space you have. And when you're doing environmental storytelling, this is the main tool too. Same there. We can go on for a while if we want. Yeah, you're the one who is actually telling who has access to what information from where. This is basically the essence of level design. It's trying to pace what amount of information you have by blocking your spatial freedom, or maybe you're blocking your spatial freedom but not the visuals. If you got a window, you can't go there, but you actually can see that there is something beyond. And inversely, you can have some curtains that is obscuring what's going on, but that doesn't prevent you from actually going through. You can always play with the line of sight and play with the freedom of movement you give to your player. If you're making a game, of course, this is really, really focused on game design and level design right there. But yeah. Okay, another chapter. Part 2 is your use of props. Because no matter, even in everything we saw there, on a grand scale, you could recognize an entire environment. Yes, because you had key props, sunken ships like the statues or horizon line and sun filled with a specific type of building that tells you about your environment, architecture. Now, let's try to focus on objects. Really objects. Yeah, Kato, and this is why Kato is asking us, before we go to the objects, it would be interesting to illustrate the same environments from a different line of sights. This is why your concept artist exists. So when you do a level, try to make all of your collaborators talk together, because if you can have a level designer, a level artist, and a concept artist actually work together real quick to have a sound idea of the kind of thing they want to tell together, you can go through a lot of good ideas before you pick one, rather than just sluggishly trying to make a level design with no idea of what you're trying to do. Okay, so are we good on environments and line of sights? Objects then. If you're good on the global thing, now we are trying to get focused on the little elements. We call that the props. The subtitle of this part for me is why Final Fantasy 15 was painful, let's say that, to me personally. Denotation versus connotation. Can anyone tell me what is the difference between denotation and connotation? Without asking Google yet. I don't care for Gemini's answer, I care for yours. Hey, don't pressure me with my second language terms. I can tell you what a melting pot is.
I want to preface this by I have no clue, but I'm gonna guess that denotation is what the thing is, and connotation what you can relate this thing to.
Yes, you're absolutely right. This is exactly that. Denotation is what this is, what the word means, and connotation is what is associated by effect of halo to this word. So objectively, when I say a dress, you can picture a dress for what it is. But for most of us, when I say a dress, most of people, the first thing they will think about is probably something like a pink dress cut for a woman. Personally, when you tell me dress, the first thing I see is a 50s cut dress. You know, the really cute one with the puffy cone skirt. Yes, the sundress. This is the first thing I think about when you say dress. And it's not like I don't know that men can wear dress and be really handsome in them. Like, oh gosh, so handsome. But the connotation, the cultural association immediately comes with it. And it has nothing to do with the dress. And it has changed from era to era, from culture to culture. Dress weren't inherently feminine for most of the history in most of the regions of the world. It's a really modern concept to have the dress specifically associated with femininity, you know? But it exists and you are always playing with it. And then I'd probably kill it in a dress. I've never tried though. I'm all quads. You can have very beautiful dresses cut for really, you know, square people, especially square men. It all depends on the cut. Funny, I just saw a video on the Zelda Gyarados design and its cultural problematics by a certain Pokemon plushie kitty yesterday. So guys, yes, let's normalize men in dress. I agree. Yeah, because the Gyarados culture is really, you know, cut around a certain idea of Orientalism. You know, it's Japanese people using the codes of Western Orientalism for the Middle East. It's really weird. It really comes from a really weird place in different countries' vision of each other in history. There is an entire question about cultural appropriation that should be its own chapter, but it's the shared space of humanity's imagination that goes all over the place in things that are not nearly historical even by a bit. And there is a lot of things. Gyarados are a symptom of that. Our entire imagination around cowboys is like a myth. Cowboys were black and indigenous. Cowboys were not cool and lonely. They were quite struggling. Actually, yeah, I was disappointed too when I learned that Simtaus did not really exist either. I was really disappointed. But yeah, you have a lot of humanity's shared memory that is completely made up because storytelling, cinema, a lot of stuff, you know. If you get your research, you probably will encounter more interesting stuff rooted in reality and in historical facts and in archaeology. You will find new stuff trying to get closer to reality and trying not to be surface level interested in the myth of what you heard about cowboys, what you heard about samurais, what you heard about ninjas, what you heard about Middle East women harems. You know, all this kind of thing, when you think about it, it's a bit goofy and stupid how it's obviously stories made up from people that didn't understand anything to talk about people that didn't understand the slightest. And yet it kind of served as angular stones for our collective imagination. And there is nothing wrong for having a collective imagination that is a bit skewed, as long as you don't recognize it as a shared reality. It's our shared fiction, it's cool. If it becomes our shared reality, it kind of becomes problematic. So yeah, that was my parenthesis on cultural appropriation and surface level quotations of certain cultures. In any way, first of all, you have to keep in mind that every object have a use, and this use can be subjective. I use a spoon a certain way. You could be using the spoon in a totally another way because it's a very versatile tool, you know. And someone find me the gif of Sebastian, the bird in the Little Mermaid, trying to show Ariel how you're supposed to use a fork, and you get the idea of how subjective a use can be.
I like forks.
Yes? Yes.
Fork. Yes.
Just fork. Yeah. So you can use a fork for a lot of reasons. Brushing your hair, eating, gouging the eyes of someone. You know, it's a use. It's a tool that can have multiple use. There is a function, which is why the object was designed in the first place. You have a connotation, a whole universe that is called upon when you say, okay, this object. When I say a spoon or a fork, you think the entire tableware collection, you think kitchen, you think maybe you think ballroom because you're fancy like that. Maybe you think about Ariel because it was a core memory of yours when you were younger. There is a lot you can have in connotations. There is also associated symbols. Every object kind of has object, and when I say objects, not out of speciesism, but I do include animals in there, or even people, to be real. We talked about butterflies. Butterflies can be associated to innocence, to beauty, and to death, to the ephemeral, to, there is a lot of things, of strong symbols that even if you present it to someone who never heard about the use of this peculiar object in this context to call upon the symbol you want to call upon, they will feel the symbol. They will feel the symbol. I think I'll talk about Breach again because why not? I think most of people that were in their adolescence when they first encountered Bleach as a manga or as an anime, the first time they saw portals to the other world that were kind of bleeding black butterflies out, they didn't need to know that butterflies were associated with death. It was kind of bleeding through, And after that, of course, when you do your research, yes, it's not a Azaro's decision. It was not just picked up there just to be beautiful, even if it was a good reason. It's because a butterfly have a very short life, a very short adult life. Sometimes it can be 3 days, sometimes it can be a few weeks. But it's associated with death because it's associated with the ephemeral. Yes, camellias, flowers. Flower language is a whole other subject that is really, really interesting, and I can't tell you enough to go dig into that because this is really fun. And every of the subjects, they have all of that, and they have a an aesthetic presentation, a visual design that you can exploit and you can change without even changing all of the above. Your fork can be wood, can be metal, can be cheap metal or expensive metal. It can have ornamentation on it, or it can be very, very plain. It will associate more connotation again. If it's fancy and man-made, it will have a connotation about wealth. It will have a connotation of distinction. And if it's really plain, like an IKEA set, it will call upon the function over appearance, above appearance, practicality. Maybe it can have a cheap connotation, but most of the time it's just practicality. And when you're taking all of that together, you have this method of trying to classify everything by time period and region of the world. And you can associate them to somewhere in the world. And even if people don't know exactly about it, you will call upon, this collective imagination we all share. Or you will activate, maybe for the first time, a part of the brain of someone, And with that, you can either invent or innovate about new kinds of design, new kind of visuals, new kind of usage, new kind of fundamental functions. And you can, if you're building a universe from scratch, you can actually associate different things with an in-universe connotation that you would have to explain to your viewer or your player or your audience, but it will exist. And it's always a good thing to take things that already exist in the real world to share with people, either to use it as a shortcut or to deconstruct it completely and play with the expectations. What you're seeing on the screen right now is addressed by Thierry Mugler. Thierry Mugler is, I would say, if you know Iris van Herpen, like in question of styles, this is a grandpa. This is the original weirdo. This guy was crazy in the best way. And I dare you to invent a world where people could dress like Thierry Mugler would dress his mannequin. I dare you. you would end up with a lot of interesting stuff. Not just structural. Try to imagine further an alien world where it would be okay to wear that dress like every day or every other day, because you could have other dress, and you could, you know, try to treat every piece, every prop you have like this kind of living testament of what is your world about. You're right, it would be a very extravagant society. The closest I have in mind, and it's not even close in my opinion, would be the Hunger Games, the Hunger Games capital. And yet again, it's a very vain way to think. I think Terry Mugler's work is way more majestic than whatever the capital is doing. Look into his work, Terry Mugler. Look into it, and if you like his work, look into Iris Van Herpen too. You would like it too. Okay, so one beef I have with Final Fantasy 15 or 16, I don't know anymore. The one with Noctis. One beef I have with them is that they kind of don't care. And for very good reason, we'll talk about it. When you're trying to immerse someone, using props that are actually going against your storytelling is, how to say that, kind of counterproductive, if I'm being nice. The example I'm going with is, unless you're in Monkey Island, the energy of the game is, the fuel of your games is pure comedic absurdity. You don't put a 70s toaster in a pirate ship. Very, very please. You must ask yourself a question every time you're doing something, like, if you use a futuristic object, and a futuristic object that is worn at that, it's supposed to make the audience ask questions. And as designers, as artists, as prop artists, as environment artists or concept artists, I pray that you try to be really specific about the keywords you use, because when you say a pre-Columbian ruin, it's a bit wide, and personally I would be really upset at you, because I'm a purist like that, if you kind of mix up the Inca culture and the Mayan culture, because they are like, thousands of years apart, not at all in the same regions. Try to use real words and not borrowed broad words. That is, vaguely. The reason why I'm asking you to make a little mind palace with different regions of the world by half centuries is to not stop at the first thing you think about something that you don't know. So, when you are putting an object in an environment, you are inherently telling us something about the technique used for making said objects. You are indicating the aesthetics of the people making it, the appreciated aesthetics, and aesthetic and values are kind of tied cultures to cultures. What period of technology are we talking about? What kind of technology is valued and accessible to the universe you are trying to represent? Ask yourself the question, why would anyone be fighting on fully armored on a horse if, tanks are actually a thing? Maybe you can make a beautiful world using that, but you have to ask yourself, okay, how comes? And you have to answer that question, because you have to reconcile the uncanniness of these two things put together. Magic horse, thanks. I would be in love with that, I swear. Okay, my problem with Noctis's Final Fantasy is that I can't help but wonder, noir traduction is actually right. Where these NPCs broke from the marketplace by the close of the same place as Noctis and his buddies, but don't seem to manage to achieve the same level of drip. This is exactly this. And other thing, you have right outside in the desert monster the size of an actual skyscraper just walking around, possibly burning and freezing everything around them if they just catch a glimpse of you. But no one ever thought about, put a fucking wall around the open air cities. There's a lot of things. Okay, why the fuck? If you can't put walls around because this is expensive, can't you at least, I don't know, make some telephone wires that kind of fake out the fact that there is, I don't know, some barriers, magic barriers, or electric barriers for them not to be able to sack a diner ghost city, and there is a reason why the entire game is like this, there is a reason why every time you walk into this open world, there is a ton of market bought characters and reused assets and a lot of things that kind of completely breaks your immersion. The game was a development disaster because once they recruited Louis Vuitton for making the outfits of the main cast, once they recruited a famous tattoo artist to make all of their stuff appealing, they didn't have a real story for years. They kind of had to fire a lot of people, and at the end they just, one producer just had to push a game within the year to save the entire project, and he made decisions that nobody wanted to make, which were, okay, we don't have enough money anymore to pay artists to do something that is unique to this world and that works with the world building. Instead of world building, we were trying to make, we're going to buy stuff on the marketplace and just develop as fast as possible because we have an entire open world we have to surely make. And it's sad because this is the only thing you know about this game when you didn't play it. There is a really interesting mechanic about camping outside with your group of friends and the strengthening of your bonds with your friends on a road trip. There is actually really interesting, like crazy in-depth development about the conversation between the boys. It's really interesting, but it's never brought up. Most of people just never use the feature and never get into it, so they kind of go straight besides this kind of beautiful thing they've done, and everyone is like me, just staring at the game as it is, and you kind of say, you had huge ambitions for storytelling, for mixing modern stuff with mythical, impossible stuff and huge politics. But no, you couldn't deliver all that because stock markets non-player characters. And that's sad because it shows you that you need to design stuff to make it believable, and when you don't, it tells a story against the story you want to tell. Okay? So, little quizzes. Let's go. Just to change from right to left, let's say that. Okay, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 first pictures. Can anyone tell me what they have in common?
They hold various liquids.
Yes. And that's their function. No, can you tell me the difference between all of them?
One's more like ornate, while others kind of value more what's the word? I forgot the word. Like usability.
Functionality, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep. That's one difference. I would say 3 of them are really ornate. A seed is kind of thing. Maybe you could assume they were made for different kind of liquids, different kind of intended purposes, but functionally they all hold liquids, and you could hold whatever you want. You know, it's like this Coke advertisement for their Coke glass. You know, you do whatever you want with them, but I don't know. Yes.
I think that the main point that where they all differ is the aesthetics of them, because you can clearly see that they come from different times and from different cultures. And even though the one cup on the bottom left is like very ornately carved, it's very different than the one on top, for example.
Yes, you're right. What besides the design, and I will ask you, ask all of you after that where you think everything comes from. Aside from the shape language, what are the difference you can observe between one of the main difference you can observe between the two, for example?
The amount of dexterity you need to utilize them. For example, the baby cup has 2 handles, so you can hold it more easy.
Oh, yeah, that too. But I was more thinking about what Kaduch is saying, actually, the material they decided to use. Because you're right, that's what you call the baby cup. I am sorry, I am a fan of you calling it a baby cup, actually. The alleged baby cup and the pouch are very functional, and the others are very demonstrational. Can anyone guess what are the different materials for the 5 of them? Yeah, if you're French, you know this was made for a French audience, so there is a lot of French example, the French test. So Eva is saying leather, Nira is saying leather, ceramic, glass, ivory, and brass. Yeah, so water skin is leather. The alleged baby cup is ceramic. And no, this is not ivory, but it could have been. Yes, it's wood. It's wood. Not bone, but yeah, it's carved wood, and there is glass. More precisely, it's Venetian glass, Venetian colored glass. And the one in the middle of all of them, it's actually a cadiz. It's called chalice in English. Okay, a chalice. It's a metal religious cup for the vine. So yeah. To close this parenthesis, the alleged biblical cup is actually a bowl, but it's a motif that is especially recognizable as a souvenir from Britain, from the Armoric region. It's like every French people has a grandparent or a parent that went there at a holiday and bring that up home with your tiny names, with your name written on it, of course. Oh, this was for the cups, for the thing that we usually use to drink, and either we use it to drink because we're thirsty, or either we use it to drink because we are fancy and we want to show off. The next picture and the two other pictures, so the three next picture going from the right to the left. What do they have in common? Yeah, they are all clocks. The golden one is a model designed and realized by Gustave Doré. And Gustave Doré is a French artist that was doing a lot of stuff. You can look him up. Possibly my favorite artist of all time. Got a lot of steam from his contemporaries, but yeah, he still made like one of the best Inferno representation ever. So yeah, I'll cut into that. So yeah, if you want to see how it works, just type Gustave Doré horloge, Gustave Doré clock, to see how it works. It's a very, very delicate sculpture, and it's actually quite impressive. But maybe you can guess when it was designed by opposition to the two other. Oh, Gustave Doré. Gustave Doré. Maybe some of you don't know where when this guy was living, but just looking at it, maybe some of you can try to guess. So cities getting around the Renaissance. There's an idea. There's an idea. But you call that glamorous? I call this Rococo, but and I don't find Rococo especially glamorous, but yeah. So Unplugged Spirit and Muse are guessing 19th century, and I think they are the closest. You can look up when Gustave Doré was alive now, and you might have a shock, because the reason why you are associating it with the 18th or 19th century is because the modern era, after the Renaissance, French Renaissance, and the end of the royalty for France, for example, is really marked by this admiration for the antique periods and the mannerisms. And so when we see intricate bodies having really delicate positions, and when we see really defined muscles, we tend to associate it with the Renaissance, and this period after the Renaissance we call the modern period. Gustave Doré was trying to emulate a lot of those kind of classical thing, but he definitely went full Rococo with that one. Okay, the top clock, aside from Gustave Doré's clock, the one on top, what kind of period would you use it in?
Whenever IKEAs were created.
You mean the first one, the beige one? Oh, both of them
Yeah.
are beige, actually. The top one.
Yeah, it looks very modern, very quickly produced.
Yeah, the boring one.
Yeah. Yeah.
21st century.
You say contemporary?
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, industrialized and yeah, mass produced. And several things can actually tell you that. It's the fact that it looks a bit plasticky. The actual font of the numbers. This is a very, very modern font. It kind of indicates you, okay, this is contemporary. And the bottom one?
Looks like ancient Greek, maybe like before BC, I would say.
Yeah.
Or Roman Empire.
Empire or ancient Greece. So we're talking about antiquity here. Antiquity and Romans and Greeks. Same story as the Inca and the Mayans. If you try to picture in your head when the cultures were the most influential in their own region of the world, especially in Europe and in the Mediterranean world. Greeks are 5 centuries before Christ, 5 centuries before Christ. Rome is at its strongest something like 2 centuries after Christ. So it's a really this is 2 different cultures, and it's in 2 different zeniths in their respective cultural hegemony. Try to always think that Romans and Greeks were really different. And because I have time, I will add, right now we have a lot of things that will go out about the Trojan War and the Odyssey and stuff like that, films that are going to go out because Epic worked. I would like to tell everyone, most of the time, the iconography we use to depict the Trojan War, we use either the Roman Empire aesthetic, which is, please no, either the Greek aesthetic, which is off. Not as egregious as using the Romans one, but it's off because it was already myth when the Greek were talking about it. And if you believe the Trojan War as any kind of reality, the dress code would be like close to what something that we would see in the Netherlands, like really prehistorical, like very ornate and complex and full on with culturally distinct stuff, but really remote from Greek culture, ancient Greek culture. Try to, again, picture in your head half a century by half a century or century by century. And if you are talking about Bronze Age or ages before that, you can span a bit larger. But if you want to find interesting stuff visually, I advise you to try to chop it up like this, just so you don't mix up influences that has nothing to do with each other. A good way to visually represent yourself the difference between Greeks and Romans. Greeks wore shirts and skirts. Romans wore togas. If you want a quick distinction between the 2 of them, this is the quickest you'll get. And of course, their cultures have nothing in common. Romans are way more patriarchal, way more into way more controlling. They have a lot of stuff that are really different from the Greeks. But yeah, if you try to, same as the Incas and the Mayas, try to keep them separate in your head, they are not the same culture. The same way you wouldn't say that Chinese and Japanese are not the same culture. If you ever tell someone that this is the same, you kind of get yourself, you could get yourself into troubles. I had students write me a pitch about Chinese people from Japan, and I was like dying inside. Because please don't do that. I beg you, from the bottom of my heart. Try to be a bit more specific when you're looking for keywords. Yeah, you're right. Some cultures call upon another culture to make themselves relevant to others. Yes, Romans based a lot of their mythology of the Greek one in their written text, but it all comes back because the Greeks were adapting their own pantheon from the myth from the Mesopotamian myths. A lot of Mesopotamian cultures had different kind of deities that you can link directly to the Greeks. All of the croissants fertiles, I don't know in English how to say that, gave their entire pantheon to a lot of cultures. They gave to the Greeks, they gave to the Egyptians, they gave to the Voodoo culture. You can find a common denominator and trace back the historic of each deity in different regions of the world and in different ethnicities, and it's really funny. Go and see the importance of Persephone and what she came from and how she evolved to be like not the most important person of the underworld, depending on how misogynistic your culture was. Same for Venus, so Aphrodite. Aphrodite was, the love aspect and the seduction aspect was only one aspect of Aphrodite. For a long time, she was much closer from Ishtar, and she was actually there is a form of Aphrodite as a warmonger deity. The Spartans, the fucking Spartans, were really into Aphrodite because they were into a form of Aphrodite that was a warmonger. If you want to, you can trace and I gave like big quotation marks when I said you can trace the genealogy of every deity and their evolutions, cities to city, worshippers to worshippers, and cultures to cultures. And you get a really, really funny story. And then Romans had to ruin it because how can females be as important as their male counterparts in their own mythology? Oh, I wonder. Okay, that was my parenthesis. Last example on this page. What are the two last pictures? Yes, they are bracelets. Can someone tell me what era do they think the bottom one comes from? I love this scientific nomination, the scientific naming convention of Nina Nomori. Nowish? Nowish. I like nowish. Nowish is now a new word in my vocabulary. It's like Kinder modern, recent, a lot more modern. I feel the engravings, so like post-industrial revolution. Yes. Yes, you're right. You're all right. You can say it because it has this kind of geometrical finish that is really close from being industrial. It has a very modern aesthetic, a minimalist aesthetic, beside being really, really loaded with precious jewels, with precious stones. You can actually see poinçon. I don't know how do you say it in English. I have no idea. There is a little engraving at the back just to be sure that it's real gold and it's a real not a contrefaçon. I don't know how to say that in English. I'm really sorry. Poinçon, not poisson. Poinçon. I will artisan. And it also is supposed to indicate you the percentage of pure gold there is in your metal mix. Stamp, no, punch. Yes, a bit of a punching. Poinçon et poisson. This is not the French class. Oh my god. Someone ventured that maybe the upper bracelets was maybe a Celtic one or a medieval one. My first question would be, why do you think that? And after that, I will continue. I will actually continue on that because why do you think Celtic or medieval when you see that kind of design? Someone say lots of engravings, someone say lack of intricate engraving work. Feels more like it's hammered, it's rough, it's circular, no rough edges, just silver, or someone said silver. It could feel a Viking. Okay, I hear you. The top one looks very simple to make. Okay, I couldn't understand why you associate visually all those kind of signs to Vikings, Celts, and the medieval period. I will tell you, this is a much older design. It is silver, most likely pure silver. Is it from Africa? Oh, someone is getting close. Not Mesopotamia, but maybe. I don't know. Maybe there already were ones in Mesopotamia. I'm not sure. Someone is selling Egyptian or Byzantine. You're not wrong, but you're not right either. Okay. Sil is telling us, I feel like I've seen this kind of bracelet before, but I can't remember. That is telling Benin. Other people are telling Egypt. Okay. So there is a reason you probably seen this design before. And there is probably a reason why you all are talking about Egyptian and Benin and stuff like that, and North African Delta. There is a reason why you're thinking about that. Now, I'll tell you, before it was made in silver, those were made in other material, and I'm sorry for my French, because I absolutely don't know how to say that in English, but the name of it is actually in French bracelet de jonc. Jonc is actually the original material it was made of. Ted got it right. Not actually. I think you write it like this. Bracelet de jonc. And without asking Gemini and Google, has anyone had an idea of why does this design exist and persist in history?
It isn't closed, so we can fit more people.
This is not the reason. But yeah, you're right. It's a one fits all. It's a one size fits all bracelet, but this is not the reason why. The reason isn't functional. It's not about the function. It's about the context of when you would obtain this bracelet.
Trade. Trade. It was traded.
No, it was not.
Oh.
Hey, nice try.
Inheritance?
There is a very specific case where you would inherit it, but no, it's not supposed to be inherited. But people did inherited it anyway.
Was it part of the funeral tradition?
It was not.
Oh.
It was not, but Okoim got one word right.
Okay.
No, the reason you might have been this design before, do you have any black friends? So if you are, maybe you saw members of your family having a bracelet like this before. Le bracelet jonc, this kind of bracelet specifically, is a bracelet master used to give their slaves when they were freeing them. This is a bracelet you especially obtain because you've been freed and to mark the fact that you are a free man now. So this is a design that is actually worn by a lot of black people. Not because they inherited it or because they were ever freed, but because they know of this symbol and they buy themselves one. Not everyone is aware of this symbol. My grandmother, mind you, she is Malagasy. My grandmother offered me one. I'm actually wearing it right now. She offered me one with a design variation. She offered it to me, telling me it was, oh, I think the design was cute. It's a cool fantasy bracelet. My grandmother is Malagasy. She's supposed to know, but she didn't. She just saw a cool design, so the male version was popular, and so cute what she kind of perceived as a cool female version, pretty version, and she offered it to me without knowing what was the symbol behind it. So yeah, some symbols are outliving their meanings, but you can always find it back. Okay, that was my little history lesson. We're past. Okay, so moral of the story, when you're using a prop, don't be silly. Be silly, please. Try to make sense in your delirium when you're using props inspired by different kind of cultures, when you're mixing and matching stuff. Try to be smart about it, about the way you are using your artist superpower to mix and match references. Yeah, and if you do include toasters on the pirate ship, be consistent. Yeah, please no IKEA clocks in the ancient civilization. Or if you do, please give me a reason. Just don't put it like that. Don't put it there like you are in the middle of the development of a monster game that should be out since 5 years, you know? That time I used to get into an IKEA clock of Mesopotamia. Piracy is so good, we're stealing it from the future. Digital sundial coming right up. Oh, I want to see that one. Okay, challenge, guys. You're artists in there. I know you can do it. I want a digital sundial. Please send us the digital. Design me a future sundial. Oh, I promise you have more assignments than that. Okay. So, have you got some Skyrim fans? And does anyone knows of the Lover's Camp? No Skyrim players? Okay, so for those who don't know, the Lover's Camp in Skyrim is an exercise in this kind of storytelling. So, what you can see here is a camp with a lit fire, a cadaver. In the back, there is a wolf. In the tent, there is actually a lady, and once you're done being eaten alive by a wolf, you can actually go through the stuff of the two dead people, and you find their stuff, so you can gather more or less what kind of people they were, and it could be treated, as just, oh, okay, there is two dead people in the wild, and I can raid their stuff, no problem. But among that, there are a bunch of letters scattered in their stuff. In those letters, if you read them, you actually learn that there were two lovers running away from their respective families, Romeo and Juliet style, and they just stupidly got killed by the wolf you just killed right now. You can do that in any game. You use the functionalities of your games to actually tell a story with your environments. No, and it's a cheap one. You have a model for the ladies. You have a model for the men already. You have the model. You have the entire enemy program for the wolves. The little camp tent You already have several in the world. The papers, the loot, the fire camp. It's all stuff that already exists, you already produced for your game. Reuse your assets. If you are smart, you can tell an entirely new story just by reusing the assets that already exist. Be smart about it. Okay? New assets, new hero assets are expensive. Environmental storytelling is the most inexpensive thing you can make because you're already, for in all intents and purposes, you're already using stuff that you would have produced anyway. It's just a bit more time in the engine to actually place them and space them in a way that makes sense if you want to play detective, to tell the story back. And, you know, that's a story you can never find if you never look for it. It doesn't have any kind of meaning in the grand scheme of things, but it helps making your world feel more lived in. Who played Portal? I was telling you earlier that even blank walls were meaning something, especially when you use it as a contrast to present worlds that are not blank anymore. So yeah, you really have to take into account that you can use every opportunity to actually do stuff with your environment. Cheap environments, storytelling, tags on the wall, frescoes, a really cheap way to do some in-universe storytelling in a way that is really compelling. Take advantage. It's most of the time it really brings personality in your project too. Oh yeah, well don't ask people to do something they don't love. It will show. Dead Space. Can someone tell me what's happening here? Probably. And most probably what's going to happen in like 10 seconds. So yes, we're in danger. Probably there is a fight coming in. Why do you think that? I don't know. Why would you ever think that? Where should I go anyway? You see? Jen being pragmatic, you just passed a checkpoint with the health pack. Yes, into the blood room we go because we prefer to fight against a thing that drags bloody corpses into rooms rather than face whatever is at the end of that corridor. Okay. Yeah, the shadow, the unsettling shadow is not what you see first. But you can see it because we used light to guide your, I would say, the player's pathfinding, but that's not the word, but you get what I mean. Find the humor in it. Dead Space is showing you a blueprint of a very specific weapon with really, really precise and technical terms, and basically telling with their own characters, okay, you don't care about all that. Fuck off. Just cut off their limbs. You see how it sets the tone too, right? There is actually the same joke, exactly the same joke in the modern Dooms, the Doom remakes. At some point, the joke is that you have a recording of a scientist trying to tell you what's going on, why there is demons appearing left and right, and why you should punch them. And before they are done with even the first sentence, your character, without you doing anything, by the way, it's your character is acting on its own. Your character punches the screen to go on with his day. Yeah, Doom Eternal. So see how you can set up a mood and a tone like in a few seconds. Be playful with it, okay? Be playful with all the indication you. Every time you feel like you should be trying to get your player to do something, try to be smart about it. Do it with storytelling, do it with light, do it with the composition, do it with the font you're using. Even if that font is actually you smearing ketchup on a paper so you can scan it and make it look like blood on a wall. Okay? Okay. So, specifically for games, do you know who those guys are? If you want to work in games, you should know. Mario Man. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, this is David Cage, Shigeru Miyamoto, and Eiji Aonuma. Eiji Aonuma and Shigeru Miyamoto work at Nintendo. Nintendo is gameplay first. Shigeru Miyamoto is gameplay first. Eiji Aonuma is, yes, gameplay, but storytelling too, actually. And they don't jam together. They absolutely don't jam about it. You know, so much so that Shigeru Miyamoto once summoned Eiji Aonuma for a coffee, basically to tell him, okay, what the fuck are you doing with making a story in Mario Galaxy? Why did you do this? Why did you give law to Mario? I'm not happy about that. And they kind of agreed with this coffee together that from now on, Shigeru Miyamoto would handle Mario, and Eiji Aonuma would handle the Legend of Zelda franchise, so that he can have fun with the storytelling and the making the lore about it more interesting. Yeah, that's the kind of relationship they have. It's a bit of a complex public relationship they have. And David Cage is the founder and director of people who made Beyond Two Souls, Heavy Rain, Detroit Become Human. Yeah, so this is a guy who directed all of that. And this guy likes story a lot. Beyond Two Souls too, yes. So yeah, go get the joke. So, who is supposed to do what? Who is supposed to do what? So, when you're a game designer, you are responsible for things to be interactive and interesting. Make the interaction interesting, actually. So, what you want to push your players to do is to engage with the system and to master your own system. When you writer, you want to use text the right way. When you're a scenarist, you want to make scenes work together so that they make a good story from top to bottom. And when you're a narrative designer, you're using the interactions to make a coherent emotional experience. So a narrative designer is not a writer, if not just only a writer, and it's not just a scenarist, if not only a scenarist. A narrative designer is supposed to use the tools given by the game designer to actually tell a story with that. So using your environments and your level design to tell stories is actually your job as a narrative designer too. It's just that in this instance, you don't write and you don't have a scenario, you just have context clues. So you kind of have to share the space and talk together. And the way it would work most of the time is your game designer, level designer, environment artist, and programmer will each give intentions for the gameplay, for the level of difficulty, for the storytelling, for the visual mood we want, and for the sound we want. Everyone with the props artist, the compositor, the sound designer, and the narrative designer, all of them, they gather in the room and they all state, okay, this level, what do we do? What do each and every one of us want to do with it? And is it compatible or not? Everyone give their intentions, everyone try to be on the same page, and ça part en prod. Like we are going to try to develop everything we thought of. So your level designer is going to make a block out of your level design. Your narrative designer is going to try to put some narrative elements in the space that is available for that with your game designer too. You're going to have your environment artist and your prop artist to do the actual key elements, key props, gameplay elements, stuff like that. The architecture if needed, the natural environment if needed. This is your job, guys. This is your job. And with that, the composer, the sound designers, the tech artist, they are going to try to add up on that to set the mood, put some scripted events, and your game designer are going to test that. And they're going to make notes on, okay, what is up to par with everyone's intention in the first place, what does work, what doesn't work, and they send it back in the loop. And you iterate on this until you have a cohesive level. So that's how you do storytelling with everyone involved. And as you can see, it involves a lot of people. Maybe some of these people are the same people with different caps on, but there is so much different skill sets that are needed to make it a pleasant experience. I advise you to be very kind to your colleagues. And yeah, Blink, you're right. Communication and criticism is the key. Don't be susceptible. Try to express yourself always in a way that is really clear that it's you speaking for yourself, not making judgments, but actually being clear about what you think. You don't want to be complacent, but you don't want to be aggressive either. Always begin your sentences by I think, I feel like, in my opinion, stuff like that. And try to be honest about what you think works and doesn't work. Because this is a question. It's not if it's good or if it's bad. Does it ring true to the intention we wanted, to the pillars of the game, to the pillars of the experience we are trying to build together? Okay. Yeah. So, for the one who wants to, and only the one who wants to, I have an exercise I often give to my students that I kind of inherited from my own studies. Thank you, Pia, for giving us this kind of stuff. This is a really enjoyable exercise. If you ever want to do either game development or comic books, or if you want to do animation, or if you want to do anything like that, I kind of invite you to try to do this once in your life. This exercise is called the wagon. Do we say that in English? A wagon? The train car. Train wagon. Train carriage? Train carriage. Okay. The exercise is try to use every tool we just went over to actually tell a story. And you have a few rules and a few interdictions, a few forbidden things. You can't use dialogue. You can have human animated non-player characters. You can't have enemies. You can't have any complex mechanic more complex than just a click. You don't have any text that is more than 3 lines, like maximum 3 lines of text. You can move, maybe not. And you can click, maybe not. Try to make anyone understand where you are, who is your avatar, what happened, and what is going to happen in a closed space. And this closed space for this exercise, sometimes I make it a square room. In this instance, it's precisely a wagon. You either have to, when I do it with my students, I ask them to make a functional prototype where they are just, making a small level design, very small level design. Or I ask them to make an illustration or write a description and try to have a small presentation to explain why you chose to use what type of tool, what type of objects, what type of lighting, and what is the story you intended the audience to understand. I always tell people that they are free to use any kind of context, any kind of props, and free animation. And if they imagine interaction that they actually can code in the prototype, just put a panel to say, okay, at this moment, this happens. I invite you to make just the concept art of a train carriage. Just make a concept art. And when I say a train carriage, I'm just telling you it's a train carriage. I'm not telling you what kind of train carriage it is, and I'm not even trying to tell you that it should be recognized as a train carriage. Because again, I'm not telling you what kind of universe this is, what is the supposed denotation and connotation of what I just said. You're the one who decide what is a wagon. Go crazy. I had students make me really crazy stuff. Like one of them literally made it so that the wagon was a planet, and I won't say more than that. So yeah, if you want to screen that, I won't grade you on anything. None of us have time for that. But if you want to have fun, constrain yourself to make a wagon. I didn't specify the size of it. I didn't specify the type of it. I didn't specify the era or the technological level of it. I didn't specify it was functional or not. I didn't specify if it was used as intended or not. You do whatever you want. As long as it's still a wagon, try to tell me a story in it. Oh, I will take any question you want. Okay, does anyone have any question? Thank you, Jen. Did you find it useful?
Yes.
Okay, good, Anna. Good.
How many exercises like this did you do in your time?
When I was a student or when I was a professor?
In general.
Okay. When I was a student, I was doing like 3 or 4 a week because I was in a crazy school and I loved it. Yeah, maybe I'm busting it, but yeah, every week we had something to give, maybe two of that kind of thing to give out until we were thoroughly working on our final year stuff. And when I was a professor, I actually tried to give an exercise, like really depending on what school I was, how to say that properly. There were a school where I was specifically called to give one set of lectures for a purposeful project. So I was doing one project with them, contributing to one project with them, and giving them several exercises to warm them up toward this goal. So something like 2 or 3 exercises before they went fully into their like 2 months group exercise. And when I was all year long with them, yeah, I tried to give them something to do. They always had something to do, and sometimes it was just for the day. Sometimes it could last them a few weeks. This kind of thing, for example, it was one week long. I had several that were 2 or 3 weeks long. But this kind of exercise really function as workshop so that people could try to burn their first bad ideas to be comfortable and to come up with new stuff that they actually were proud of afterward. So yeah, if you are interested in trying this kind of exercise, try to give you a time limit of 1 week or 2 weeks. This one is 1 week in my books, but 2 weeks can't be bad.
Okay. Do you have other exercises of this nature? This sounds really fun. I just don't know what to Google.
I got some one I gave, but it was really more game design oriented and less visually, visual development oriented, but more game design. It was about, for example, making a game design with no explanation and a self-explanatory mechanic. You had to just boot the game, and with no explanation what exists, like just the tutorial. Not even that, just this key. You can use this key. You can use this key. You can use this key. They had to invent a gameplay that would be self-explanatory, and that would be, invent a new mechanic that would be really easy to get into, but wasn't something that already existed. This kind of exercise I would give them, and I will give them more time for that because this is kind of difficult. So this would be like a 3 to 4 weeks exercise. And they would have time after that to polish it up. They really came with really nice stuff, I would say. Another exercise I would give them, I got for character analysis, I got for color analysis, actually. I got for world building too, and I got for character creation, character relationships.
Give me, please. Like, if you have it in a text form, I would be really thankful.
Oh, do I have that, guys? Actually, you can go on my website.
Okay.
If you go on my website, always the same.
What's your website?
Yes. .com/game of draw. If you go in the workshop area, you will have all of my, almost, not all of them, but almost all of my stuff. And you will actually have, at the end of the workshops, some exercise like this. Sorry, it will be in French. But
C'est okay.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So nice of you. Oh.
Thank you.
Okay. I was really glad to have you all.
Thank you.
So yeah, if you don't have any questions, it's okay, but I can stay a little longer for answering if anyone wants to.
Are you planning on doing any more of these?